Welcome to the T-Bird Zone, now streamed online at SUUTbirds.com and SUUnews.com. We're here in studio with head football coach Ed Lamb. Coach, as always, welcome. Football season's coming. This is great. But let's talk a little bit about how the fall camp has gone. Where would you grade the team? It's really, really early. I mean, so this is one of the first grades of the semester. But where would you grade the team as far as how they're at right now?
Yeah, that's a relatively easy question to answer. We don't, if you ask me to grade us in relation to our opponents, I don't really have any idea about that. Of course, we've looked at our opponents and we understand the level of football that we're at, but our day-to-day focus is much more on the effort, the enthusiasm, the passion that we're bringing to practice on a daily level. And then as school begins to start and the players are no longer sequestered in the dormitories, it's what kind of decisions they're making off the field. Are they going to bed on time, getting up on time? Are they taking care of business in the classroom and relieving that part of stress out of their lives? And are they bringing great passion to the practice field and to our weight room training sessions? And I think that right now I would give our team the highest grade possible. You didn't give me a scale, so it's hard to give the grade.
We'll go A. We're on that academic side, so we'll give them an A. Has there been one player or a group of players that has particularly stood out during the fall camp?
I've been really pleased with the development of our offensive line throughout the offseason. It's been probably one of our weakest positions the last 3 years. We've had young players in those positions. We've had players that we moved from other positions to try to manufacture, so to speak, an offensive line. And this year we have 7, 8, maybe even 9 offensive linemen that are all capable of being starters. They're all capable of being winning players, and they're really committed to football, and they were the whole off season, and they stuck around for the summer, and on a daily basis they're really working hard. I'm excited to see what that offensive line will do for us this year. Has
the youth in years past then helped translate to, when you've had sophomores on the offensive line, now they're juniors, seniors, has that experience really paid off? Is it kind of a sharp growing curve?
Well, this will be the opportunity. That's kind of what I'm alluding to. This is the chance to see that, and clearly that's the hope, that's the design. We've played those players because they were the best players at that time, but also we've made an investment when we play young players, and rather than going the junior college route or scouring the country for transfers, we've chosen to do it with young people who we think have strong work ethic and great potential. And then we've tried to develop them as best we can, and I think that we're in for an exciting year.
You talk about the development, because I know your first years here, it was recruiting based on a height scale, and the potential that they fill out in Coach Benyon's strength and conditioning program. Have you seen fruits of that labor then? I mean, you talk about the size of the offensive line. Are you pleased at how they've developed?
Yes, yeah, very much. We have one of the biggest offensive lines in the country, and I think that we certainly talk a lot about the development in the weight room with body weight and strength and size, overall size, but we work really hard in the weight room and in our off-season conditioning program on speed development, on agility development, and I think we have a very athletic offensive line, and that holds true for the rest of our team.
Well, let's talk about Brad Sorensen, because he's really the biggest name coming back. There's an experienced backfield, really, with the running backs, the quarterback position. Talk about Brad Sorensen and what the expectations maybe he has for himself and maybe what you have for him this season.
My sense is Brad has expectations for himself that fit within our team goals. We have some very clear-cut and simply stated team goals that we talk about at the beginning of our season. They're on page 3 of our playbook. They're not something we focus on a day-to-day basis, but we want to have a winning season. We want to earn a conference championship and earn a playoff selection. And really what has made Brad a really good player is that he has a high level of talent, but he also has the humility to understand that he's only 1/11th of our offense. And we need to be a good football team with or without Brad. And he needs to approach that in every day and in every way. We're not selling out the character of our team or the character of our offense, so this can be the Brad Sorensen show. And quite honestly, I think that Brad would be really uncomfortable if this was that type of program. So I think that he's really showing leadership in his own way by getting the other players involved, by showing his daily struggle every day to perfect his game, to get better and better, and that's what we all have to do.
Let's talk about offense as a whole then. specific positions. We talked about offensive line, talked about the backfield that's going to be strong with particularly Austin Menifee, Decker Alexander, both coming back. Wide receivers was where the transition was going to be toughest. There wasn't a whole lot of, well, I don't want to say there wasn't a whole lot of depth. There's players that are there, but we lost a lot of, receptions in Tyson Poots and Fesi Sataki. I know this year there's been defensive backs that have moved over to the wide receiver position. Was that a beef up the depth type move, or was that a concern of we don't have guys yet and we need to get guys sooner?
Actually, those players were recruited as receivers to begin with, and we had made the move 1 year, 2 year, even 3 years ago in the case of Miles Crawford Harris to move him to defense to beef up the depth on defense. And now, as we have that situation where we need to find out who our new receivers are and next receivers are, we move them back to where I think is their more natural position, and they're excited about those moves. We, the thing about losing Fesi Sataki and Tyson Poots from a year ago, those guys, they caught 85 passes and 82 passes respectively, and so it could be said that those guys were ball hogs, and they were, and so it's not as if we went into games last year, threw the ball all around a bunch of different receivers, and Poots and Sataki were the only ones that would catch them. Right. We went into games and we threw it to those two guys, and now we've just got some different guys, and they're very capable. We're going to get Abel Iono more involved. We're going to get Darryl Brown more involved. We have Fatou Mawala has had a great camp, and he's a transfer from the University of Utah, was a starting player for them, high level of talent, and has really bought in, and he's a T-Bird all the way in terms of work ethic and his sacrifice. And then we've got Miles and Miles Crawford Harris and Cameron Morgan, but also a true freshman walk-on has really made some big waves for us, Brady Meeson. He's probably going to be our starting punt returner, and he has skills a lot like Fesi Sataki. He can find those areas over the middle and find the openings and make the catch.
Very good. Quickly, how will this change from defensive back now going to wide receiver? Is that really going to help them just because they know how defensive backs are going to approach them at the line, and they can, either shake off that bump coverage or just know how the defensive secondary works out? Will that be just an added bonus for those guys?
I think you said it well. I think it's an added bonus. That's really what video review is all about. So our wide receiver coach on a daily basis for his whole career has been pointing out what defensive backs do and learning, teaching the guys the tendencies of defensive backs. But perhaps Cameron and Miles would have a little bit of extra understanding on top of what they're being taught.
Very good. Well, we appreciate the recap of fall camp, and be sure to watch this show on SUTbirds.com and SUnews.com every week.